Yeah. Because you
Okay.
No, just no one's there yet. Don't worry.
Yeah, but now we're live.
Yeah, but it's fine. No one's there. You have 3 minutes, but you want to tell people.
Okay.
See, we're still telling your followers you're about to start.
Okay.
So 3 or 4 people. So just wait.
Okay, I'm going to start talking because I don't like to keep people waiting. And Patrick, who's my Home Together partner, my son Patrick, who's home together with me, is joining me for our Home Together conversation today with Mel Robbins, who is an amazing teacher, motivator, woman, author, talk show host, woman, everything. And hi, Vice. Oh, now Patrick is changing.
I'm just backing it up a little
Backing
bit.
it up. Well, then I can't read the questions that far away. Anyway, we're living together. We're home together, and Patrick's age groups are big fans of Mel's, and as is my age group, and we all need things together. So, wait a second, Patrick. Okay, and so we're so excited that Mel is going to join us.
Oh, there's Mel.
Where's Mel?
I just saw her comment.
Okay, so we thought it would be great because so many people are living at home with their adult children. Now you go. Do you want me to teach you how to do it?
No, I know how. I'm going to click
You know
her.
how to do it. Well, you have to view.
You see, and
There's
Mel.
requests.
So now you press Mel.
Mom, I taught you how to do this.
That's true. Okay. So now we're waiting for Mel Robbins, and I just want to say that there's Mel Robbins. Hi, Mel Robbins.
Hi, you two. I'm sitting here laughing because I didn't realize this was a comedy show, watching the two of you together. I love it as you're yelling, you're kind of bantering back and forth. This is amazing.
Well, there's so many people, Mel. I was watching you this morning. So many people are at home together with adult children, teenage children, really close together. So I thought this would be a great thing to do together. Also because Patrick's age group and also Patrick really admires you. And I admire you. So I thought, well, we should kind of admire you together and get lessons from you together. And I just want to say that I met Mel in the elevator about 3 weeks ago in New York. We were both there for work. And Patrick had invited Mel to a conference he was going to be doing called The Rookie and the Vet, which was young people to listen and get advice from vets. And she had very graciously responded, and we introduced to ourselves together in the elevator, which was really sweet moment, I have to say. So thank you, Mel. And also you said, and I watched a video you said afterwards, because I said something to you about your TV show, and you said, well, I've just lost my TV show. And I thought that would be an incredible place actually to start, because so many people, millions of people, have just lost their business, whether it's their TV show, their lifelong dream, their hair salon, their home store, their jobs or whatever. And I thought you just lost the dream that you had. And I thought that would be an incredible place to start, because Patrick is dealing with so many young people who have lost the businesses they just start. And how do you overcome losing something that has been your dream?
Whoa, well, open right with the whopper, for crying out loud.
We didn't even go to ask you how you were.
Oh yeah, that's right. How are you, Mel?
Well, I'd rather be talking about this than sitting with my family, because we're at the end of a very long day. We've got 2 college students at home and an 8th grader who all started classes today. So everybody is sort of on edge. And, you know, what's interesting about it is you just asked me, and I'd love for everybody, tell us where you're watching from. And could you please tell us what is the big disappointment or loss that you're trying to process right now as we have this conversation? You know, for me, I think that every single one of us has had some disappointment or some loss happen because of this, whether it was something like spring break or your senior year of college ending abruptly, or your business now having to shut down, or me, you know, we are done taping my dream, which is a daytime syndicated talk show. And I think, first of all, you got to let yourself take a moment and feel the loss, Because if you don't allow yourself to process that deeper emotion that you're feeling, and it's fine. Like if it was just that you didn't get to go to Florida and you're bummed about it, it's still okay to feel a loss, because it is a loss. You were looking forward to it. And if you don't allow yourself a moment to process it, it will creep back out in really gross ways. You will take it out on your family. You'll drink a little too much. You'll eat stuff that you shouldn't eat. And that's why it's important to allow yourself a moment. The second thing, and this is huge, and I realize that you may really be struggling right now, and you may be terrified about how you're going to pay your bills. But I implore you to understand that this isn't happening to just you. This is a collective moment of loss and of uncertainty, and we will get through this. And I firmly believe that there is an opportunity inside of this thing, that if you're willing to force yourself to look for the opportunity in this, to grow personally, or to be forced to innovate your business in some way that you were scared to do or you got complacent around, that if you look for the opportunity, you will come through this challenge stronger and better off, whether it's in business or it is as a human being. And so here we are. Sure, my daytime show is still airing online, but here we are now. We've pivoted. We're doing it all digital. That's the opportunity. And for you, I know you wanted to talk about anxiety. The collective uncertainty that we're facing is an opportunity for you to work on your resilience and on your willingness and ability to have the courage to stand in discomfort and know you can rely on yourself and know you can face it. And so I think that that's the most important thing. Once you got your safety covered, you got to get your perspective and your mindset in check. This will pass, and you got a choice about whether or not you grow during this moment and you figure out how to pivot from here and how to improve from here, or whether or not you suffer through this whole thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great kind of message that you just brought up. And I think that's something that I've been dealing with a bunch of our smaller companies, and I think you've been dealing with on your own, is how do you kind of, her norm was doing all of the work from the office, working with her other people, doing podcasts, speaking one-on-one with people in front of each other. And how do you kind of change your whole business model during these times where you can't, interact with people, and like you had said, kind of putting it to the virtual side, like we're doing right now, and finding other opportunities and ways to change. Or, example, my pizza shop, Blaze, 95% of our business was in store. And they've had to completely redo the whole model to try to, do delivery and change everything. Our gyms are struggling. Obviously 100% of their business is from people coming indoors.
Right.
And now they have zero. So they've had to shift everything to online, doing Instagram lives for people. I think one of the big questions here that I'm just seeing pop up on the comments is, how do you go and change your outlook on changing your opportunity when you don't have money, is one of the biggest things I'm seeing pop up here for people that have been kind of laid off or don't have that security.
Mm-hmm.
What's the mindset? Because I know one of your biggest messages that I've read about you, the 5-second rule and everything, was you were in that moment of not having money, not having financial security, not having a job, sipping on the bottle too much, everything like that. And what was it that made you feel, okay, I need to change my outlook and change this opportunity in my life to go and seize the moment and make that big leap?
Well, that's why I laughed when you said pizza restaurant, because my story doesn't begin right now. It begins with the most recent recession in 2008 when we hit the mortgage crisis, and my husband was in the pizza business. And we had poured our entire life savings into a bunch of restaurants here in the Boston area, pizza restaurants. And the first one was a home run, little 40-seat joint that was great. And so we plowed everything, the 401k, the kids' college savings. We took out a home equity line, they opened up 2 more. And that's right when 2007 hit and 2008 came. And we found ourselves $800,000 in debt, about to lose the house, no money for groceries, had to pull the kids from town soccer because we couldn't afford the $100. So I have been there. It is downright terrifying. And it is really hard to pull yourself up when you feel the crushing weight of not knowing how you're going to pay for food, whether or not you're going to lose your car, your house, your sanity. And that's where I was 11 years ago. And it was during that moment when I could barely get out of bed because the anxiety and the depression and the number of problems that we had were so big that it felt like a mental weighted blanket on me every morning. And that's when I invented this little thing that I called the 5-second rule. And I'll explain it in a minute. First, I want to address your question, which I think is really important. There are things you can do right now. I mean it. First of all, you have got to face the fears that you have. So the first thing you should do when you get off of this call is you need to go and you need to pull 2 months of your bank statements. And I know this is really super, very simple advice, but this is where you need to go. And you need to take a look at all, take out all you need, literally, where is one? I don't even know where it is. You need a highlighter and you need a pen. That's all you need. Highlight everything that's coming out of your account. And the reason why you need to do that is most people don't even realize whether it's a business expense or it's a personal expense where your money's actually going. Right now is a moment in time to do a reality check that most people are terrified to do. Open your bills, open your bank statement, figure out where you're at. That's number one. Number two, you need to do whatever you can do right now. I'm sure your retail locations have probably already closed. But what you can do, I've seen a bunch of CrossFit locations do this. I've seen a bunch of restaurants in the Boston area do this, is you can put your ego aside. Forget that you don't have it all figured out. Ask for help. Right now is the moment in time to ask for help. You can ask your general.
Where do they ask?
Well, what you do, yeah. So here's what you do. I'm going to talk business and personal. So if it's business, you're serving a community that's local. And so if you're going to delivery only, what you do is you use social media to put yourself out there and explain what you're doing and explain that by ordering takeout or ordering pickup, you are supporting X number of people in this community that still need jobs. And when people understand the purpose connected to the purchase, they're going to want to support your business. If you can start to afford to do things, whether it's donating to folks that need food, whether it's repurposing your kitchen, that's for people that are fully funded. We never would have been able to do that kind of thing. But when you connect the purpose of you're going to keep a certain number of people employed, and this is how we're handling the safety of it, it's an opportunity for marketing. It's an opportunity for reaching new customers. Will it replace your business? I don't think so. Will it keep you going? Yes, it will. Another thing that you should do if you're a small business and you have not closed your doors is you should really look at your P&L right now and figure out, do we need to cut everybody's salary across the board temporarily to spread out the risk so that we can continue operations a little bit longer? For gyms, a lot of the things that I've been seeing in our local community, particularly with CrossFit in our local yoga studio, is if you can continue to pay the monthly fee, you will be supporting our instructors and supporting this small local business, and it allows us to now put all of our content online. Those are small things you can do as a business owner. Personally, what you need to do is you need to get super proactive right now. You need to take a look, since the federal government doesn't have a universal plan yet, you got to go state by state. You should be looking at your state websites right now about mortgage relief. You should be reaching out to your landlord if you've gotten laid off. You should take a look at your personal statements and look at every single thing that you're spending to see where you can cut back. And again, if you can afford to support your local yoga studio, continue to do that because it helps your community. But you've got to face the facts in terms of where you are. You've got to check your ego at the door, and you've got to start trimming some of your expenses, and you need to ask for help. When it comes to local taxes, go to your local government site. And the other thing that you should do is you should be doing this now. I call this the financial toilet paper moment. So 4 weeks ago, the epidemiologists, the experts in the field were telling us that this was coming. They were telling us based on data, not on political rhetoric, that we were tracking to Italy and Spain. It should not surprise anybody that we are now approaching those numbers because we were warned. I'm going to tell everybody right now, look at what every other country's doing. What's coming is a national lockdown, regardless of what the government says. When you look at the data of every other country, it's coming. And so don't be the last one to Costco. I don't want to see a video of you crying at Costco because you can't find diapers and you can't get your Coca-Cola because it's all been sold out because you didn't take care of the number one thing, your safety and your family's safety, which means coming up with a plan for what you need based on where we're going. I know that's not going to solve your financial concerns right now, but I'm going to tell you something. If 11 years ago, $800,000 in debt, not being able to pay groceries, and about to have my car repossessed at the age of 41 with 3 kids, and it wasn't happening to everybody. It really was happening to us. It was a solo, self-imposed crisis. If I can claw my way out of that, one decision at a time, if I can keep the anxiety at bay and keep myself moving forward, baby step by baby step, you can too. Because here's the biggest takeaway from today. Your community, the government, the world might not be prepared for a pandemic, but guess what? You can prepare yourself mentally and emotionally to be resilient and to be steady as we go through these next couple months, that you can train yourself to be prepared, to feel what you need to feel, but then to steady yourself again and keep reminding yourself, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through it together. We are going to come out stronger, and that's that.
I really like everything you just said, Mel, because it's personal and it's professional and it's empowering. So I think so many people have talked over the last many days about feeling disempowered, about feeling helpless. And I said to Patrick, you know, it'd be really great to ask Mel, because so many in your generation, this is the first big upheaval, right? This is the first, everybody's cruising along in their 20s, they're getting out of college thinking, you know, they've got the next great idea, right? And this is the first, they don't remember 2008, right? And I grew up with my parents talking about the Depression. So this is the big boulder in the road, right? And the idea that you're talking about, okay, honoring the grief, honoring the fear, but then getting proactive in your life and knowing that something kind of incredible came out of your desperation that launched a very different career for you.
Yeah, it's true. And I see a lot of people asking, well, how did I do it? What happened? Ba, 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 ba. So I'm going to give everybody.
I see a lot of people saying Patrick is hot, hot, hot. So well, we were trying to have a serious conversation here.
That's all right. He's a good looking kid. Absolutely. I'm going to call you a kid so it doesn't sound like a 51-year-old woman is hitting on you, which would be very gross. So first of all, I think that part of what you need to understand is there's always something you can do. And you can slip into despair. I don't want you to. There is always something that you can do. And so what happened for me, and this is going to sound so basic, but I need you, as you're listening, to pay attention to this, because it's going to build into all of the advice that I'm going to give you, which is so simple, but it is backed by science. It's working for millions of people, and it's exactly what you need to do right now in order to weather this storm. And I need to keep saying, there has not been a single challenge you faced in your life that you haven't met that hasn't made you stronger or a better version of yourself. And this will be the exact same thing. And so first and foremost, I want you to have faith that there is something inside of this experience that you are meant to learn. There's a person you're meant to meet. There's an experience you're meant to have that is preparing you for the thing that's coming next. And it is so important for you to have that perspective. That's number one. Number two, let me explain the 5-second rule. So I believe that you are one decision away from a different life, that the way that you change your life is through the decisions that you make, and that the secret is something I call the 5-second rule, that there is a 5-second window between a moment where you know what to do and then fear stopping you, a 5-second window between a moment of inspiration or your intuition whispering to you, and then your fear and your anxiety and your depression telling you no. that if you can train yourself in moments where you know what to do, or your instinct is telling you to do something, or you know what you should do, but you don't feel like it, if you can train yourself to move in that 5-second window, you have learned the secret to life. And what happened for me and how I discovered this, honest to goodness, is I was watching television one night, you guys, right here in this house, 11 years ago, and it was a rock bottom moment. I had had 4 Manhattans. My husband was in another room. I was watching TV, and I was giving myself a pep talk. Maybe you're giving yourself a pep talk right now. All right, tomorrow morning, it's the new Mel Robbins. Tomorrow morning, I got to stop drinking. I got to exercise. I got to look for a job. I got to stop screaming at these kids. I got to stop stuffing brownies in my face. I got to get these kids on the bus. And when that alarm rings, I have to get out of bed. I cannot hit that snooze button 5 times and lay there in my misery. And then all of a sudden, this is so stupid. Brace yourself. This is the story. A rocket ship launched across the screen. Honest to God, that's what happened. And I had this crazy idea. Holy cow. Maybe if I launched myself out of bed like a rocket ship tomorrow morning, I'd move fast enough before the depression and anxiety and the fear set in. That's the origin story. That's it. It's so stupid. That's what happened. So the next morning, it was a Tuesday in February outside of Boston, Massachusetts. My alarm rings. Now, here's the most important part, everybody, because once I explain this to you, it's like one of those things that when you hear it, you're like, how did I not see this before? There's a 5-second window that defines your life. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's the window between courage and fear. It's the window between confidence and self-doubt. It's the window between, oh my gosh, your wisdom and your instincts and your fear. And what happened for me is that alarm went off and I knew I should get up. But then this 5-second moment opens up when you start to think and you start to hesitate. And guess what comes out in those 5 seconds? In that window comes anxiety, self-doubt, trauma, patterns, hesitation, depression, lack of motivation. And within 5 seconds, if you haven't moved, you move in the wrong direction. And so that morning, I knew I should get up. I started thinking, and all of a sudden, I don't want to. I don't feel like it. It's not going to work. What's the big deal? But I went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Counted backwards like a rocket launch. Boom, I stood up. It worked. It was so weird. And the next morning, I used it. Alarm goes off. Start thinking about it. I don't want to get up. It's cold. It's not going to matter. Who cares? We're at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm up again. Strangest thing. Now, look, I went to Dartmouth. I'm a lawyer. I'm cynical. So when this started working, I started thinking, what is this? How does this work? And so I decided I would use it in secret. And I did. And I here's the promise I made. And I want you to make this promise to yourself. The moment you're in a situation where you know what you should do, and then you feel yourself either about to snap at somebody or grab the brownie or pick up the drink or blow off the thing you need to do, I want you to count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And something shocking will happen. You will immediately gain control. You will immediately beat self-doubt. You will immediately interrupt the mental patterns that are holding you back. Now, to jump ahead, guys, because I know everybody has a lot of questions. I didn't tell anybody about this for 3 years. I used it in secret to turn my life around 5-second decisions at a time. My husband used it with his business partner. They went back into their business and started talking to their investors and talking to their landlords and talking to everybody that they were scared to face. And slowly but surely, they started pulling that restaurant business right out of the gutter, just like all of you will too, because you got to face the things that you're avoiding. That's the way. And I shared it in a TEDx talk, and that TEDx talk now has like 23 million views. It is spread around the world. I self-published a book about it that's now in 32 languages. And the thing that I'm the most proud about, here's the thing I'm the most proud about, is that this is backed by so much science. We have pediatricians around the world using 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 as a tool for parents to help their kids interrupt the thoughts that trigger anxiety. We have veterans organizations using 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 as a tool to help vets reprogram the triggers associated with PTSD. We had a psychiatric care nurse at the Mel Robbins talk show the other day who explained that they show our videos about the 5-second rule when patients get released, and it is the single most powerful tool that people report back, keeps them from having suicidal ideations. We know of more than 100 people who have stopped themselves from committing suicide by using 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to interrupt those patterns of thought. And what happens, let me explain the science and then we can talk more about it. It sounds so dumb because counting backwards is so simple, right? And it's free. Wow. Why would it help you lose weight? Why would it help you cure your anxiety? Why would it help you interrupt all of the worries you have right now? Here's why it works. When you count backwards, what you're doing is you're doing a brain hack. It's called a starting ritual. It interrupts habit loops that get encoded right here in your basal ganglia. And when you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it interrupts that loop. And by the time you get to 1, you've awakened your prefrontal cortex. It gives you immediate control over what you think and do next, which is why it is so powerful right now and why you need to be using it. Because we can't choose what's happening. We can't choose the response of the government or anybody else, but you can choose what you think and you can choose how you respond to what you're seeing. And that's the key.
That's a lot. I think that, I mean, first off, that was such great advice and kind of motivation. I think I felt it just being here and listening to you. I think what's your one little, explanation of something that people can do right now that are listening to take action? Because a lot of the time, I love motivation. I love motivational videos, YouTube's, TEDx talks, books,
Right.
something like that. And, something for what you're talking about right now would be, tomorrow morning would be,
Okay.
Don't hit that snooze button, do that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But for a lot of listeners, and I've been in that same boat before, is, I might lose that motivation by tonight or by tomorrow morning. What's something
Right.
that a lot of people can maybe do right now? Is it that they go set that alarm for, a little bit earlier than what they usually do? Is it if they have work tomorrow morning that they get up a little bit earlier? Is it they change their eating habit tonight? Is it they go on a walk? Is it, what's something that could spark the kind of change in their daily habits right now, so that they are making that massive action?
And maybe what generations can do together in these houses and apartments. Because
Okay.
everybody's in there together, right?
Yeah. So I have a bunch of things to say here, and I'll explain them one at a time,
Okay.
and then you can ask follow-up questions. So first, I want to give you context. One of the reasons why everybody feels this collective moment of anxiety is because of all of the uncertainty and the lack of predictability.
Mm-hmm.
And predictability makes you feel safe.
Correct.
And so the number one thing that you could do for yourself is you can hack predictability in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want you to do when you leave this conversation is I want you to create a routine for your day. Why? A routine for your day creates predictability, which will give you something to count on, which will start to make you feel emotionally safe, and it will help you focus on what you can control, which is what you're doing and what you're thinking. So that's the biggest, most important thing that everybody should be doing right now. That means, if you set your alarm for a certain time, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. Do not sit in your pajamas. Change your clothes. Eat a healthy breakfast. If you said you're going to be on a Zoom call at 10 o'clock, make sure you're on it. Setting a routine is critical. Now let me talk about what do you do if you've got kids in the house. If they're younger, you got to help them come up with the routine. But one of the main things that you're seeing in the issue that's happening with multi-generations living together right now is you've got somebody like Patrick and somebody like our kids who are 21 and 19 who are super independent. They've launched. And now this is their worst nightmare. They're back with their parents, for crying out loud. And so they've just not only lost spring break semester of college, but they're now also losing their independence. This is a total nightmare. And so it's critical for you as a parent to not put your anxiety on your kids. Your kids need a routine, but if they are teenagers, you shouldn't create it for them. You should empower them to think about a routine that empowers them. And then you should ask them, what support do you need from me? by giving them that little bit of independence, you're going to get rid of a lot of friction, which is going to come from you barking orders at them. You got to empower them to be in charge of themselves in this moment, because your kids are going through a lot of disappointment and upset and anxiety too. And by giving them the chance to create their own routine and then to tell you what help they need, that helps them be independent. So I would say the number one thing is a routine. That's number one. Okay.
Right.
Any questions about that?
No, that made perfect sense to me. And for everybody that's watching, there's a little question icon in the bottom if you want to type questions.
It's hot in here. Yep.
I
got to open up the window. I think I'm having a hot flash. Oh my God.
Oh, I'm through that. There's life after that.
Thank you. I need it. Oh, because it's happening throughout the day.
Yeah,
Stress is bringing on.
I think that's a really great thing, because so many people I've talked to find themselves at home with little kids, find themselves at home with adult kids, and a spouse and or a partner that they're not used to sharing the same space with 24 hours. So kind of giving people routines, allowing other people to share routines, how people are managing their anxiety within that. Everybody's managing anxiety at different times, right? So I think that that's also something. I heard you talking this morning about self-realization, self-awareness. I think that's also a really important thing once you've got a routine down, to be aware of how you're managing and to let people in on, like, this is what I'm feeling, right? Communication is super important to your team that you work with, but also to the team you're sharing your home with.
Yeah. And, look, if you have a house that has enough space, one of the things that we did is we asked our kids, you're going to have to be online for school. What do you need? And we found that one of our kids loves to study in the frenzy, so she didn't need anything in her room. And the other one really likes to study without hearing a pin drop. And so you got to be flexible. And to the extent you ask your kids what they need, they're going to tell you. And so we've also, with our one daughter, kind of set up a space for her to be able to study where it's really quiet. The night before, we have family dinner. The one thing about our routine that I have instituted is you have to meet as a family for dinner, or with whomever you are. And if you're alone, a lot of people are alone right now, still have a family dinner, just do it over FaceTime so that you feel connected to somebody and so that you're going through this with somebody. And if you don't like your family, start organizing virtual dinner parties with friends, because that way you got something to look forward to. But one of the things that we do around the table at night is, as we're talking, we say, what do you guys have coming up tomorrow? And do you have something that you need quiet space for? And then we organize as a family around that. Like half an hour before this started, I was screaming at our son Oakley, who was playing the Xbox, going, "I'm about to be on a live stream." No, I'm just kidding. So I was gently reminding him in my inside voice that I was going to be going on with you too, and that he needed to not be screaming at the Xbox while I was talking. So previewing is really important because it allows people to be flexible. I would like to talk about anxiety because I personally had a 25-year battle with anxiety. I took Zoloft for more than 2 decades. And when I started sharing the 5-second rule on stages around the world, I decided, because so many people were using 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to do extraordinary things, to triple their income, to lose 300 pounds, to not jump off a ferry, to seek the help that they needed, to lower their voice and not snap with their kids, to reprogram their trauma triggers, that I really wanted to go to battle against my anxiety. And so I want to talk a little bit about managing anxiety. And routine's critical because it creates predictability. Right. And the world is very triggering for all of us because it's so unpredictable right now. And so the first thing I want to say is, if you feel more anxious than you've ever been, you're not alone, and it's normal. I think there must be something wrong with you if you're cool as a cucumber while all this stuff is going on. And so being a little on edge, I think, is perfectly normal reaction to these unprecedented, uncertain times. That's number one. So stop beating yourself up and stop making the anxiety worse, because it's a normal response. That said, having sustained anxiety all day, that makes your stomach hurt, that makes your heart race, that makes it hard to sleep. How many of you are having trouble sleeping? That makes your heart race. That is something that I want you to take seriously and to do something about. So here's what you can do. Number one, go through your day. And I want you to think about from the moment you wake up to the moment that you go to sleep, what are all the things that trigger you to feel anxious? For some people, anxiety is worse in the morning because you're facing a whole day full of unknowns. For some people, anxiety is worse at night because you are going to bed and your mind is spinning. For some people, a huge anxiety trigger is around 5 o'clock because historically that's when people come home. That's a moment in time when a lot of people experienced conflict or abuse in their households. We're seeing a rise in the number of people in our community who are talking about the arguing in the household, the drinking in the household. And so that might be a trigger. And writing down all these triggers are really important because then you can see the anxiety coming and you can do something ahead of time. Now I'm going to teach you what I want you to do. It's very simple. I've taught this to millions of people. It's free and it works so beautifully. You are not going to believe it. And brace yourself because it's so simple, you might not even try it. So I just got to put that out there.
Go.
Yes. So here's what you're going to do. When a nasty negative thought enters your mind, you have got to decide in this moment that you're not going to allow the worries to sit in your mind. You're not going to allow it. If it's a worry that motivates you to do something, like to go to the store and get a couple cartons of milk or to check in on your sister who's a nurse, that's one thing. That's productive worry because it makes you do something. Destructive worrying is the stuff that spins, that makes you start to really go into the what if this and what if that and what if the other thing. And so what I want you to do, if you catch yourself thinking that, what is something, Patrick, that you find that triggers you to get stuck in that place?
That gets me stuck in a feeling of anxiety. I mean, right now, I think that I'm dealing with kind of a lot of what some of these other questions are is not knowing when I can go, kind of back to work or what work will I have? Having to work from home. Your boss is still hitting you up and making sure you're doing everything, but you don't, it's tough when you're at home and you're not interacting with people. And so stuff like that, I would say. Okay, terrific. And Maria, do you have something that like really triggers you to worry?
I'm pretty good. I have a routine. I have a breathing program. I exercise. I get dressed like I have somewhere to go. I've actually, kind of tried to schedule FaceTimes. I try to find ways to be of service. And I find that my age is actually beneficial, even though I'm in a vulnerable group. I'm in also a group of people, I think, that have been through a lot in life.
Yeah.
Have a certain kind of, I think, pacing. I worry about, I work in the nonprofit space as well as in addition to my journalism work. So I worry about a lot of like the work I do for women in Alzheimer's. Will that survive? Will we be able to raise money for the research of women's brains that we've been doing? Will people be able to support other nonprofits that are doing extraordinary work? I mean, I think we have a lot of influence, a lot of focus now on the importance of medical research that wasn't there a month ago, but I worry about all the other nonprofits who are going to have to close up, maybe my own included. And so that gives me anxiety.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so thrilled that you shared that. I want you in the comments, wherever you're watching from, tell me what is the thing that is triggering you right now to get kind of caught in that, what if this and what if that? I got caught in it yesterday because one of our 21-year-old daughters, one of her friends tested positive and they were on spring break together 3 weeks ago. And they're very close friends. And then our 19-year-old has come home and she is coughing like she smokes 2 packs a day. No fevers or anything. But I found myself dwelling on, oh my God, is that COVID-19? What if she goes to the hospital where there'll be a respirator? What if she goes to sleep tonight and she wakes up and she has that stuff on her? And I started spiraling last night. This is what I'm talking about. When you catch yourself there where the thoughts start to go down a road, this is where we're going to pull out the 5-second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to interrupt that and we're going to draw our focus here. That's what counting backwards does. This doesn't work, by the way, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a pattern that's already encoded right here. You can do it without thinking. We're using this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to activate your prefrontal cortex and interrupt the patterns of worrying. Now what I want you to do is I want everybody to pick what I call an anchor thought. What is an anchor thought? An anchor thought is something 6 months from now. 6 months from now, when we're all back to a normal life and you have a job, whatever that job is, and you've sorted out whatever the financial fallout was, and you've come through this storm, and you can breathe, and you have money coming in, and I want you to pick a place where you would love to be able to go. Now, I'm going to share mine. Mine is, I'm supposed to be visiting my parents right now on the Panhandle in Florida, but they are now back in Western Michigan where I grew up. So when I think out, when all of this is behind me, my anchor thought is how excited I am to go to the shores of Lake Michigan, where I grew up, and walk through those sand dunes and see Lake Michigan. And it's really important that you have a visual image of something and that you say the words, I'm excited. I'm so excited to go and feel that sand on my toes and to be there and to have this behind me and be able to swim in Lake Michigan. Now, why does this work? There's science behind this from Harvard Medical School that is only 2 years old. It is called reframing performance anxiety. This works like it's like a magic trick, because here's what happens. What happens is anxiety and worry to your body feels exactly the same as excitement. Exactly the same. If you're about to give a speech, or you're about to go on a job interview, or you're about to do a business pitch, you probably have butterflies in your stomach and an itch in your throat, and your chest may get flush and your hands get clammy. If you're about to meet your most favorite musician, guess what? You have butterflies in your stomach. Your hands are clammy. Your throat is tight. Your body doesn't know the difference between a moment that makes you excited and a moment that makes you nervous. Only your brain does. So you can trick your own brain in a situation where you're already nervous and anxious and reframe it to excitement. And your body won't know the difference, and something cool happens. The second you start spinning your wheels about whether or not there will be defibrillators available if you get sick, or whether or not the business is going to be there or you're going to survive this, or whether or not the mortgages are going to get halted and you're going to be able to get through this, and you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you think about where you're going in 6 months and you tell yourself you're so excited to do it, something interesting happens. Your whole body settles. The anxiety disappears, and you immediately can take control of the moment. And this is why it's so important for you to learn this skill. Number one, I don't want you torturing yourself the next 2 months. You don't need to. If something happens, you'll deal with it and you won't go through it alone. Number two, if you're so hijacked by anxiety and worry, you won't be able to problem solve. You won't be able to see the opportunities that are right in front of your face right now. If you get so worried about your restaurant or your gym or your nonprofit, or whether or not there are defibrillators, or whether or not, you will hijack yourself. You will make yourself miserable. You will make your kids and your family anxious, and you will miss out on the solutions and the simple joys that are right in front of you. And so I want you to practice this, the 5-second rule with an anchor thought. Come up with your anchor thought tonight. If you're particularly anxious, go through your day and come up with the triggers so that you got it ready to go when you start to feel it. And I think you will be shocked how different you feel in a matter of 24 hours.
These are all great suggestions, Mel. I want to thank you so much. I know you have dinner to go to with your kids. And I want to thank you. I know you've also started a big Facebook group to stay connected. It's called Stay Connected with Mel. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if you go to Facebook and just search Stay Connected with Mel Robbins, okay. It is a global community of encouragers to keep you positive, give you tools and strategies, and connect you with a global community of people that are going through this with you.
That's great. And there's a lot of questions. I know that we didn't get to all of these questions, but we tried to kind of deal with them. A lot of them had to do with, you know, my anxiety. What if I don't have work? I think Mel answered so many of them. What if I'm living with, you know, kids of different ages? I think we've tried to touch on all of this. Maybe we'll get to do it again. And your kind of final thought for the rookie and the vet, what's your best advice for those of us who are living kind of, I think, all in the same house across generations?
Ooh, I got great advice for you, because we just started this last night. Oh, this is really good. So I got really worried yesterday because I think this is going to be one of those situations where if you've ever been homesick at camp, I was the kind of kid that was homesick at camp. Camp was torture. And because I was homesick, it took...
He hated
What's that?
Camp in New England. He did not like camp in New England.
Okay, so we have that in common.
I got homesick.
Me too. And so I hated it. And the days dragged on. And then when it was over, I had so much regret because I didn't really fully take advantage of it. And it was over in hindsight like that. And so I had this thought yesterday. I was talking to my husband, Chris, where I said, you know, I'm really worried that our kids are going to blow these next 2 months by just being on their phones. They're going to be on classes online, and then they're going to be here, and they're going to miss out on the opportunity to really do something for themselves. And so last night I raised this after we had talked about a bunch of other stuff. And I said, what about if every night at dinner, I ask everybody to identify 30 minutes or an hour of time tomorrow that you're going to plug your phone into the kitchen, and it's time where you're going to pick up your guitar, or maybe you're going to create your photo album from your semester abroad, or maybe you're going to read a book, or maybe you're going to go off into the woods and listen to a podcast. But, you know, what do you think? And I was shocked that our 21, 19, and 15-year-old all admitted, you're right, I probably will waste it all on my phone. That sounds like a really cool idea. Let's try it. Now, we haven't done that yet. Tonight's the first night where we say tomorrow, give us an hour. And they could all be like, screw you, Mom. But I love the idea of giving each other not a to-do, but sort of like an encouraging thing where we're supporting you. Not like you got to do it at 3, but you tell me based on your schedule tomorrow, can you find 30 minutes to an hour just for you? And what is it that you'd want to do with that time that you normally don't have time to do? And so that's what we're doing. And I think it's a really cool way to stay connected while you're home together and to support each other in really growing a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. I actually put on my goals list for this year as a personal development side, doing no phone at meals, which has been, the first few days were tough, but then it was actually got, you know, a lot easier. And another thing was starting a book club and reading a lot more, because I hated reading in school. It was like I disliked the most. And now it's at a point where I actually, when I find the right book, I enjoy it. And I created a book club just to keep myself held accountable, and so that we can have these group meetings and talk about the books. But something that I've seen that's happened is it's giving me so much info and topics to discuss at these dinners without my phone around. And so I totally agree with you on that. And my girlfriend, who's a model, is so used to traveling. She can't do any work, and she's usually traveling overseas every week. And she's back, and she had the same kind of question of like, oh my God, I have no work for the next at least 6 weeks. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have a second job or whatever. And I kind of told her the exact same thing that you did. And now she hasn't read anything in the last year, and she's blown through my sister's book in the last 2 days. And she said to me and my mom last night at dinner, like, I can't believe I never enjoyed reading. And now that I have the time to, and I've actually picked up the book and you know, because I don't have any other distractions, I've just like fell in love with this book and reading it. Shout out to my sister Catherine, whose book just came out. That's a plug. But I totally agree with you of trying to think of ways to focus not on what we can't do right now, because there are so many things that we can't do, but what are something that we can do? If that's reading, if that's, you know, doing a different morning routine, if that's, you know, getting to spend time with with my mom, who I haven't, lived home with in whatever years since high school, anything like that, and to actually cherish that time, like you're telling to your kids. So I totally agree with you.
And thank you, Mel. Thank you so much for everybody here. It's like, this has been so helpful, so inspiring, so productive. You gave people really concrete, practical things that they could do in the morning and the night to get them through the day. I'm so glad that we were able to do
Me
this.
too.
I hope we can do it again. And if you want to stay in touch with Mel, she does her lives every morning. I tuned in this morning and watched all about emotional eating. Hello. And been there, done that my whole life. So I was really interested in that. But then she has a Facebook group, and obviously she has books, and you can stay connected with her on her own platform. So thank you so much, Mel.
Thank
Have a
you
great
so
family
much.
dinner.
Have a great
like the
evening
only
tonight,
way
you
we
guys.
can-
I'll see you soon.
The only way we can leave is by counting 5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, that's
Pressing,
right.
yes.
Should we go?
You
5,
do.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Bye.
All right, now we're
Nope,
still on.
Yeah, you just press end.
Yeah, I will.